Today, in the media conference with Lal Goyal, which is brought to you by V4 News, Karu News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, and Organ Donation India Foundation. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is not only current, but very, very relevant. The topic is anti-defection law, a toothless tiger. But before I will go on the main topic, I would like to inform you that today India is observing Sadbhavna Divas. Sadbhavna Divas is celebrated every year on August 20th to mark the birth anniversary of our former Prime Minister, late Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. The word Sadbhavna means goodwill. This day is observed to encourage peace, national integration, and communal harmony among all religions in India. Rajiv Gandhi is known for his contributions for India's development and welfare of the citizens. So every year, Sadbhavna Divas is celebrated with great zeal and enthusiasm across the nation. This year, we are celebrating the 77th birth anniversary of the youngest Prime Minister of India. Mr. Gandhi was appointed as the Prime Minister when he was only 40 years old after the assassination of his mother, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister. He served the country from 1984 until his assassination in 1989. Media conference with Lal Goyal hopes that India will celebrate Sadbhavna Divas in true spirit of social and communal harmony. Now coming to our main topic, and that is anti-defection law, a toothless tiger. Defection by legislators occurs in many democracies. It can be argued that they can undermine the stability of the cabinet, which is dependent on the support of elected legislators. The argument follows that such instability can amount to a betrayal of the people's mandate as voiced at the most recent prior election. Prior to the introduction of the anti-defection law, the election of... Kumar sir, please mute yourself. Please mute. Please mute yourself.
Yes.
Prior to the introduction of the anti-defection law, the election of both the Prime Minister and Chief Minister of some of its states and territories had experienced instances of perceived uncertainty resulting from legislators changing their political alliance. It may be noted that the political party was not a recognized word in the Constitution of India at that time. By one estimate, almost 50% of the 4,000 legislators elected to central and federal parliament in the 1967 and 1971 general elections subsequently defected, leading to political turmoil in the country. A law was sought to limit such defections in India. In 1985, the 10th schedule of the 52nd Amendment of the Constitution of India was passed by the Parliament of India to achieve this, which resulted in introduction of the new word political party in the Constitution of India. Thus, political parties got recognition in the Constitution. Following recommendations from many constitutional bodies, Parliament in 2003 passed the 91st Amendment to the Constitution of India. They strengthened the Act by adding provision for disqualification of defectors and banning them from being appointed as ministers as a period of time. As an example, in 1967, a legislator, Gaya Lal, changed his alliance 3 times in a single day and gave rise to the infamous expression, Aya Ram, Gaya Ram, which in English means Ram has come, Ram has gone. To tackle the whip of political party defection during the 4th Lok Sabha in 1967, a committee was formed under the chairmanship of Mr. Y.B. Chauhan. This committee submitted a report in 1968, which led to a first attempt to submit an anti-defection bill in Parliament. In 1977-79 was one of the crucial periods in Indian politics when the first ever national non-Congress administration led by Mr. Morarji Desai was driven out of power due to the defection of 76 parliamentarians. This caused political uncertainty until 1979, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was elected by a clear majority. With rising public opinion for an anti-defection law, immediately after securing a clear majority in 1984, Rajiv Gandhi proposed the new anti-defection bill in the parliament. After marathon debates, both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha unanimously approved the bill on 30th and 31st January 1985, respectively. The bill received the President's approval on 15th February 1985, and the Act came into effect on 18th March 1985. The law laid out the process for disqualification and elected member for the remaining term who either resigned from, voted against the will of the belonging party, or remained absent during voting on a crucial bill. However, the law allowed merger and splits of Kumar Sahab, please mute yourself.
बधाई मैं एक वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस में हूँ, थोड़ी देर में बात करूंगा. बहुत बहुत बधाई.
Please mute yourself. नेता लोग हैं आप तो.
अरे जब म्यूट कर देना.
Yeah, please. The law laid out the process for disqualification and elected member for the remaining term who either resigned from, voted against the will of the belonging party, or remained absent during voting on a crucial bill. However, the law allowed mergers and splits of political parties, allowing splits in the party by 1/3 of its members and merger joining another party by 2/3 of other party members. Please mute yourself. Experts believed defection should not be viewed in terms of numbers alone and should be seen in the context of how such political defections damage the people's mandate. Recently, Sachin Pilot and his MLAs from Congress Rajasthan constituency moved to the High Court and challenged the anti-defection law, stating that the provision should not jeopardize the fundamental freedom of speech and expression of a member of the House. They have also demanded the clause 2, subsection 1, subsection A to be declared ultra-virus outside the scope of the basic structure of the Constitution and the freedom of speech and expression under Article 19, subsection 1, subsection A. Data analyzed by the Association for Democratic Reforms, ADR, has revealed that nearly 45% of MLAs who have switched parties and contested elections again between 2016 and 2020 have joined the BJP. On the flip side, 42% of the MLAs who defected left the Congress, the data shows. Now, to discuss this very, very important, very serious, because it affects every citizens who have casted their vote or who are going to cast their vote, their fundamental rights, because they have chosen someone and that person have defected to another party, either because of the money or because of the some post or because of any reasons, his or her ego, or some differences with his or her political leaders. But is it a correct thing or not? To discuss this, we have very, very eminent panelists with us. But before I will go to my first panelist, I would like to keep on mention about the opinion sent by one of our regular panelists and our viewer. He is Honorable Mr. Justice Sudhir Kumar Saxena, who is the former High Court judge. He says, if elected representative deserts the symbol or party, he should be debarred from contesting for a period of 5 years, and expenditure of election should be recovered from him. He also added, one who contested from more than one seat should pay expenditure of election against the vacated seat. Now, this is his views, which he has expressed very, very strong views. But we would like to take our first panelist and take his views, keeping in mind what Honorable Justice Saxena has mentioned. And I would like to introduce my first panelist guest, and he is Advocate Dev Prakash Singh. Advocate Dev Prakash Singh is the advocate at Patna High Court. He is member in several government advisory bodies. To his credit, the monitoring and conducting of the service conditions of a large number of employees to the tune of more than 50,000 for mega corporates, MNCs, PSUs, and government bodies. He is managing partner, Mars and Mars Legal Advisors LLP. He is member of Regional EPFO Committee, Bihar. He is chairman of Labor Resource Subcommittee, Bihar Industries Association. He is president of Central Association of Private Securities Industries, Bihar chapter. His articles are published in several prestigious magazines. He is author of Labor Law Support LLS, published by Bihar Industries Association, which was released by former President of India, late Shri Pranab Mukherjee. Welcome, Advocate D.P. Singh, on our show. Advocate D.P. Singh, you have heard what Honorable Justice Saxena has mentioned. He put 2 points, and the points are very clear, that whosoever is deserting or defecting from the party, he should be debarred for re-election for 5 years, and the expenditure to be recovered. And the second point, hello, yeah, please mute yourself. And the second part which he has mentioned is that whosoever is contesting in with the 2 seats, or the 1 seat they vacant, which we are seeing, whether it was Rahul Gandhi, whether it was many, even recently Mr. Siddharamaiah from Karnataka and others, the 1 seat which they vacant, that money should be recovered from that. Very strong points. Now we would like to know your views on anti-defection law, a toothless tiger. Advocate D.P. Singh, please.
Good morning, panelists. This subject has become a very relevant subject in recent days, because we are going to set and decide the character of the people's representatives whom we elect on the symbol of a particular party. Since I have been entrusted with the responsibility by the Mr. Lal Goyal, that I have to set the tone of the topic so that people should constrict and creep themselves on the topics only. I will speak on the legal parts of the topic only. I will not ascribe any responsibility on any political party. First of all, the impelling reasons due to which this has come has already been narrated by Goyal Sahab, that this has got kick start with Mr. Gayalal, and he became the Ayaram and Gayaram, the persons who have become the turncoats in political systems. And the Rajiv Gandhi government in 1985 by 52nd Amendment brought this bill, Anti-Defection law, and has put in 10th schedule. This is the first time, because before that all the amendments were brought and put into 9th schedule. And 9th schedule cannot be reviewed by the judiciary, as it has been proposed and stated by first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, though by the Keswanand Bharati judgment, court has said that it's judicial review is the inherent strength, and court is not the creation of the parliament. So parliament cannot curtail the power of the court. So court can review all the amendments and all the legislations of the parliament and legislatures. So for the first time, this anti-defection law has been put in 10th schedule. And 10th schedule, 2 things have been given. The only objective was to bring purity, sanctity, and the uniformity in the behavior of the political party representatives, so that the democracy can be sustained, the government can be sustained, because people's representatives are lured by virtue of money and power. They will offer some posts, they will offer some money, they will offer some other allurements, and they just become turn their courts and shift their loyalty to this party, to that party, due to which the governments are wrecked, democracy are devastated, And all the time, even the person who is leading the government as a chief minister or as a prime minister, always in problem. I think he loses his sleep in the night. In the night, who will crosses the boundary line and goes to bed. So Rajiv Gandhi has brought this bill, and he said that if 1/3 of any political party defects or splits, that will be exempted from defection. Later on, this split has been ruled out, and it has been brought that 2/3 of the whole corpus of the political party, if defects and merges with another party, that the word split has been turned into a merger. Now this merger has come in question in the case of Maharashtra. Merger, or they become a separate entity. They form a new political party. And if they are in 2/3 of the whole corpus, then they become a separate entity. And then anti-defection law will also be applicable on them, because from out of those corpus, if their 2/3 comes out, then that will be exempted from anti-defection law. And for whole defection rules, like the disqualification has been given that anybody who voluntarily gives up the membership of the party, anybody who voluntarily votes or abstains from the party, or anybody who becomes absent from the party meeting, even after issuance of the chief whip, even after issuance of the whip by the political party. What you are raising the question about Sachin Pilot. He abstained himself from the party despite the issuance of the whip. And it is said that when any people's representative defies or ignores the whip of the party, he will be forthright disqualified. This disqualification should be raised within 15 days by the political party, not after 1 month. If after 1 month any political party says that he has defied, then that will not be applicable. So this objection has been raised by the political party within 15 days that this person has defied the whip, and so this person is disqualified, and he will lose his membership with the house, whether it is legislature or it is parliament. And for all these actions, the person who is responsible, who is the master of this anti-defection bill, is the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House has become the chief master or arbiter in this case, and he is the person whose action will be of paramount importance. Even it has been said in the law that this action shall be the action under Article 122 and 212, 100 to 222 and 212 means that those will be the proceedings under the parliament or proceedings of the legislature. No proceeding within the parliament or within the house is challengeable in any court of law. So this power has been given to the Speaker of the House. Now the Court of India has said that when the Speaker is the nominee, is the agent, now the new words have come, is the agent of a political party. Though constitutionally, the moment a person is elected as a Speaker of the House, he is not assumed to be a representative of any political party. And sometimes he is allowed to voluntarily relinquish his membership with the political party, voluntarily. And after, if he loses that post, he can again become the member of the political party, and the anti-defection law shall not be applicable upon the Speaker. But normally it does not happen. The Speaker has the allegiance with the political party, and he cannot be impartial because he is elected by the majority of the members as a Speaker. If a person's strength comes from the majority of the numbers, if he is a member of the political party, he has been elected on the symbol of the political party. He cannot, even the God will be the Speaker of the House and a Speaker of the Parliament. He cannot be assumed to be impartial and fair person. He cannot act. And he has become the chief master or arbiter in this case. He is the person who has to rule and conduct and monitor this anti-defection law. How can it be? And this is the what you have said, the toothless. This is the main cause, that since the speaker is of the house, is the master of this anti-defection law, that's why this anti-defection law has failed multiple times. Indian courts have said, I have power to review the action of the speaker of the house, because the speaker of house cannot be impartial. And he has given the speaker of the house can only check the genuineness and voluntariness of a party or of a person, whether he has given voluntarily the resignation from the party. And there is no time limit within which the speaker has to decide the disqualification. This is also a flaw in the law. Later on, the Supreme Court has said that the speaker has to decide within 3 months as per the disqualification of the members. But what is happening? These turn courts are being perpetrated everywhere, all over India, barring any party affiliation. In Manipur, 7 persons defected from Congress party to BJP. And the speaker has carried on the disqualification proceeding for unlimited time. Later on, from those 7 persons, again 4 persons came back to Congress, and then that speaker has disqualified the rest 3 persons as the members of the House. So the selective disqualification of the this law has become, is not a rule of law, but this law has become a person's law, an individual's law. This law is not impartial. This law is not the law of the country. This law has become a speaker's law, and a speaker is who? He is the political representative. He is the agent of a ruling party, and he cannot be expected to be impartial. So the Supreme Court has suggested, let there be some tribunal, let there be some committees, and that committee should be formed from the independent persons who have no allegiance with any political party. Those persons can decide the disqualification of the membership. Disqualification of membership, as you have said that somebody has, Justin Pilot has challenged in the High Court. I have also something in my mind. Because in India, there is no election on the political symbol. The political people elect a person, though the person comes from a party, but how can a people's mandate can be overruled by a political mandate? If a party kicks out a person and he will lose the membership, the people will be the loser. The people of the locality shall not be able to raise their voice, raise their demands in the house. So this is somewhat unconstitutional, because the Article 19, in which a person has a right to associate with any party, any association, any organization, person has freedom of expression, is being curtailed, and this is contrary to that law. But at the same time, if you have to save the democracy from this AC bus and resort, what is happening? This is the present, and I think what type of thing is grotesque things of the people are seeing every day, that MLAs are being whisked away from Bombay to Surat and Surat to Guwahati and then to Goa, and all these things are happening, and this is happening by all the political parties. This, though Bihar persons could not be able to enjoy the guest house and the Guwahati, Kamru, Kamakhya tour and this AC bus, they have to defect and they have to do the changing or due to merger without availing all these things. But what is happening? People are seeing, people of India are seeing all these things. So what their political representatives are being done. They have been allowed not to come with the mobile phone. They have been allowed just to travel, enjoy all the facility, but you will be away from your family. You will not be able to talk with anybody. What type of things are being done? Will the democracy will run like this? So all these things are being done. And anti-defection law, I think it is really toothless. It is unable to do anything. It has become a ball to be played by the ruling party. And somewhat the court is also, though it has a review power, court is also not able to act on this law. I think this law should be requires revisiting. Revisit this law, though it is required to force the integrity and honesty upon the people's representative. But in any case, the representation of the people should not be defied. Court has also said what you have said. One justice was saying that if a person loses his membership from house membership of the house, he shall be blacklisted to be elected for the rest duration of his membership. But what will happen to the people of that locality? Will those people will be unrepresented in the house? Is it not against the constitution? So if you can disqualify a person, or let the political parties fight the election on their symbol, and then they elect the person. Because people here does not elect a political party, people of India elect a person. So this anti-defection law is somewhat not very much good placed. It needs a revisit. And the speaker, if the speaker of the house becomes a neutral person, if his election can be neutral by all the political parties, then it can be. But here, if he is acting as an agent of a ruling party, he cannot be a chief master or writer in this case. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Advocate Singh, for giving your views. And Advocate Singh says that we require a revisiting of law, because he says this law is totally toothless, misused, and he has specifically mentioned about the speaker. He says the speaker is nothing but an agent of a political party, although the role of a speaker should be impartial. But in India, we have seen everywhere the speaker acts as agent, because he is the speaker till the time that he's enjoying that thing. The day he will not be speaker, he will again be in the same political party. So one cannot say that he's impartial. He has also mentioned that law has become like a personal law, because the speaker wants whomsoever he wants to decide that they are comes under anti-defection law. He decides, otherwise he is not taking any decision. He has also mentioned about the resort culture, and he has given the specific things about the Maharashtra, where for so many days, rather months, there was no government, and they all have gone to Surat and Surat to Assam, and they were enjoying everything, all the facilities, the 7-star facilities of resort and the AC buses, whatnot, on whose expenses. That till now the list has not come. But the problem is, unless we will not ask who has spent the money, we don't know who has spent the money, whether it was a personal expenditure of all those who have gone there. So it should reflect in their income tax returns. Otherwise, the government should say that they have spent, or the political party should say that they have spent. And if the political party says, means they were the main persons for the defection. So where is the anti-defection law? So according to Advocate Singh, one should revisit law. This law has become abandoned, and neither the speaker is doing anything, and irrespective of political parties. He has also mentioned about Bihar, although the Bihar is a different thing, because Bihar, there was no defection. The entire party has changed from one party to the other, and there was, unfortunately, for the business of resorts, there was no legislators were kept in the resort. I think the Bihar or the Assam people were repenting for that. So thank you very much, Advocate Singh. I will be coming back to you once I will go to all the panelists. Now, before I will go to my next panelist, there is an opinion from Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma. Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma is a leading lawyer of Western UP with more than 42 years of practice. He says, we are expecting law framers to frame a law against law framers, means against themselves. They framed law, but intentionally left loopholes to save them. They are taking the benefits of loopholes, and we expecting them to amend the law, which they will not do. So what Advocate Singh was saying, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma is saying in a very, very direct way, these politicians, law framers, those who set the law, they have intentionally set the loophole so that they can take the advantage of this. And he also mentioned, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma further said, actually there should be a complete ban on defection. It may be in whatever quantity. Independent winners should not be allowed to join any party unless resignation, the tooth of tiger have been removed at the time of birth. So according to Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma, there was no tooth from the birth side. So how we are talking about right now about that toothless thing when there was no tooth at the time of the birth of the tiger? It means that at the time of the framing of this law, there were lots of loopholes intentionally left by the then government, means the Rajiv Gandhi's government, or so this was the his views. Now I would like to invite my panelist guest, and he is Kumar Narendra Singh. Our next panelist guest is Kumar Narendra Singh, and Kumar Narendra Singh is the National Chief Patron of Akhil Bharatiya Kshatriya Mahasabha. He is the Vice President of Rashtriya Lok Dal UP. Kumar Narendra Singh is the Director of Nyati Pharma Private Limited. He is a renowned social worker and a political leader at Mathura. He belongs to erstwhile royal family of Dungarpur and Davagar. He fought MP election against Miss Hema Malini from Mathura parliamentary constituency. Although he lost the election, but he got approximately 4 lakhs votes. Nowadays, he is de facto MP of Mathura, as Miss Hema Malini seldomly visit Mathura for last few years. During lockdown, he has distributed food and essential items to migrants and other needy and poor persons. Welcome, Kumar Narendra Singh on our show. कुंवर नरेंद्र सिंह जी, आप तो एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी से हैं, और जो आपके पॉलिटिकल पार्टी है वो है राष्ट्रीय लोकदल, और सर्वविदित है कि राष्ट्रीय लोकदल के जो नेता थे अब तो वो दिवंगत हो गए, अजीत सिंह जी, और उससे पहले भी जो थे, हालांकि उस वक्त राष्ट्रीय लोकदल नहीं बना था या बन गया था, मुझे आइडिया नहीं, आप बताएंगे, चौधरी चरण सिंह जी, सबने ही डिफेक्शन किया है और बड़े फेमस रहे हैं कि जो भी पार्टी पावर में रहती है उन्हें वो ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं। हालांकि अभी भी जैन जी के लिए भी सुनने में आया था जब इलेक्शन हुए थे कि शायद उन्हें भी कुछ पोस्ट मिल जाएगी और वो भी चले जाएंगे, और आप उस पार्टी को बिलोंग करते हैं और आप इलेक्शन भी लड़े हैं मथुरा और गोवर्धन से। क्या आप इन जो बातें कही गई एडवोकेट डीपी सिंह द्वारा, ऑनरेबल जस्टिस सक्सेना द्वारा या एडवोकेट रमेश कुमार शर्मा द्वारा, बड़े स्ट्रॉन्ग व्यूज दिए, और इनका सबका मानना यह है कि ये जो एंटी डिफेक्शन बिल है ये तो बिल्कुल रद्दी का एक तरह से टुकड़ा है, इसमें कुछ भी नहीं है, ये तो जो चाहते हैं, जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी रूलिंग हो जाती है तोड़ के किसी भी तरह पैसा दे के या उन्हें एंजॉयमेंट करा के ले जाके आसाम में ले गए या बेंगलोर के किसी रिजॉर्ट में ले गए, कहाँ कहाँ नहीं लेके गए हैं, और वहां पे क्या होता है सबको पता है, डिनर्स और ब्ला ब्ला। तो आज क्या आप सोचते हैं कि ये जो कार्य हो रहा है ये नैतिक है? ये एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ कुछ पावर है इसमें, या ये बिल्कुल ही कागज का एक टुकड़ा है और ये सब पब्लिक को, खासकर जो वोटर है, उसको एक बेवकूफ बनाने की एक साजिश है सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज में, आप ही की नहीं, मैं तो सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, जैसा कि एडवोकेट रमेश कुमार शर्मा ने कहा कि ये तो पहले ही उसके दांत निकाल लिए, पैदा होते ही उसके जो टाइगर था, अगर ये टाइगर था भी तो उसके दांत निकाल लिए तो कागजी टाइगर रह गया, कागजी शेर रह गया। आप एज ए पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के होते हुए और एक जिम्मेदार नागरिक होते हुए, आखिर आपको 4 लाख मतदाताओं का सपोर्ट मिला है, वो आज आपके पीछे हैं, क्या आप सोचते हैं कि एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ वास्तव में टूथलेस है या इसमें वास्तव में बहुत दांत है और हम ये बात जो कर रहे हैं गलत कर रहे हैं? कुंवर नरेंद्र सिंह।
देखिए, सर्वप्रथम तो मैं आप लोगों को सबको जन्माष्टमी की बहुत बहुत बधाई, शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। हम लोग भाग्यशाली है कि ब्रज में पैदा हुए और कल भगवान का प्रादुर्भाव हुआ, तो उसकी बधाई। और दूसरा, मैं राजीव जी को नमन करता हूँ, तो उन्होंने आईटी सेल के लिए बहुत बड़ा योगदान दिया, 18 साल के बच्चों को मताधिकार का प्रयोग करने का दिया, रेवोल्यूशनरी चेंजेस पॉलिटिकल उन्होंने किए और लिए स्टेप्स, तो मैं उनको भी नमन करता हूँ। लेकिन आजकल एथिक्स तो पॉलिटिक्स में रहे नहीं। पहले जो मेरिट्स हुआ करती थी या जो नॉर्म्स हुआ करते थे पॉलिटिक्स में, वो प्राय समाप्त हो गए। आज का तो मनी पावर का गेम है। पॉलिटिक्स जीत के आता है आदमी, इक्वेशन के आधार पर जीत आता है, या कास्ट इक्वेशन के आधार पर जीत आता है, या पैसे से जीत आता है, या अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलती है उसको, एक भाग्य, जैसे भाग्य का धनी था जीत गया। तो अब कोई नॉर्म्स नहीं रहे, कोई ऐसा सिस्टम नहीं रहा है जिससे कि आदमी जीत के जाए तो उस पर रुके। जब वेव में चुनाव होते हैं, वेव में चुनाव जीते जाते हैं, तो उसका कोई नतीजा फिर पब्लिक ले नहीं पाती है, तो उसके लिए वो फिर फ्री होते हैं। जैसे कई जगह हुआ, हम लोग छोटे थे तब हरियाणा में आया राम गया राम, अभी वकील साहब ने मेंशन भी किया, भजन लाल जी पूरे लेके सब पूरी कांग्रेस में चले गए थे और एक गवर्नमेंट बन गई थी। तो बहुत सी पॉलिटिकल पार्टियों ने समय समय पर बदलाव किए हैं, लेकिन उस वक्त बदलाव मेरिट पे होते थे, आज मेरिट पे नहीं होते, आज अपॉर्चुनिटी पे होते हैं और सत्ता को हासिल करने के लिए होते हैं। तो एंटी डिफेक्शन बिल, ये बात बिल्कुल सही कही रमेश जी ने और उन्होंने भी, कि ये एक जो हथियार था कि लोग रुके, इसका पालन करें, इसका सम्मान करें, वो अब सम्मान प्राय खत्म हो गया। और अब तो सिर्फ ये है कि हमें कैसे सत्ता हासिल हो, कैसे हम सत्ता में जाएं। क्योंकि एक बार आपको मैं ध्यान दिलाऊं, मेरे ग्रैंडफादर 62 में एमपी हो गए थे जलेसर से, तो मैंने वो एरा देखा है 62, 67, जब उस वक्त जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी जो अच्छे पार्लियामेंटेरियंस थे, जो अच्छे बोलने वाले वक्ता थे, उन लोगों को के खिलाफ वीक कैंडिडेट लाया करते थे, जिससे कि वो जीत के आए और हमारे को हमारी गलतियों पर उंगली उठाए। निंदक ने रे राखी आंगन कोठी छपाए। तो हमारे सामने ऐसे लोगों की जरूरत थी जो हमारी कमियों को बताएं। चापलूसों की जरूरत नहीं थी, आज चापलूसों की जरूरत है। हम यसमैन बन के खड़े रहे और सिर्फ हाथ उठाते रहे पार्लियामेंट में, असेंबलियों में, वो सिस्टम पहले नहीं था। तो वो एक जमाना था, प्रोफेसर रंगा थे, मीनू मसानी थे, मधु लिमे थे, बीपी मौर्य थे, एक स्टालवर्ट्स थे जिन लोगों की अपनी एक वैल्यू थी और समाज को वो एक दर्पण बन के दिखाया करते थे। तो वो आज जो एंटी डिफेक्शन बिल लाए तो इसीलिए थे कि भाई कोई 2/3 मेजोरिटी होनी चाहिए जाने के लिए, लेकिन अब मनी पावर से वो सब 2/3 क्या 100% हो जाती है। अब आप देखिए मतलब इसमें महाराष्ट्र में क्या हुआ, तो वहां पर मध्य प्रदेश में क्या हुआ, राजस्थान में क्या होने जा रहा था, वो तो जैसे तैसे मैनेज किया गया, बचे। उसमें तो यहाँ तक है कि वसुंधरा जी ने भी पीछे से सहयोग किया, तो वो सब बीतें अलग है। लेकिन सवाल ये है कि आपने जो कानून बनाए, कानून का सम्मान, कानून का पालन कौन करेगा? जो कानून बनाने के लिए पार्लियामेंट बनी है, कानून बनाने के लिए असेंबली बनी है, वो वही उन कानूनों का उल्लंघन हो रहा है। गवर्नमेंट में सत्ता में बैठे लोग उसका उल्लंघन कर रहे हैं, तो फिर ये बताइए कि इसका फिर कौन करेगा? जब हम बनाने ही वाले हम जब बेईमान हो जाएंगे, तो फिर आने वाले लोगों को क्या नसीब है? हम नेशन को क्या दे रहे हैं? तो एक नेशन के सामने बहुत बड़ा संकट है, इसमें अमेंडमेंट होना चाहिए और रिलीजियसली होना चाहिए, चाहे वो सत्ता में हो। मैं तो कहता हूँ मोदी जी को ये बिल लाना चाहिए। मोदी जी क्यों नहीं ला रहे हैं बिल? पार्लियामेंट में लाए, असेंबली में लाए, उसको ज्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग करें, जिससे कि लोगों की हिम्मत ना पड़े। चाहे हमको पैसा मिलता हो, हम लोग को सम्मान के लिए, देखिए पहले पद से आदमी सुशोभित होता था, बहुत से लोग हैं कि पद को सुशोभित करते, तो आज वो स्थिति है ही नहीं। आज तो सिर्फ हमें सत्ता में कैसे पहुंचना है, सत्ता कैसे हमको हासिल हो, उसलिए इन बिलों का सबका दुरुपयोग हो रहा है। तो मैं समझता हूँ इनमें अमेंडमेंट होने चाहिए, सख्ती होनी चाहिए, जिससे कि कोई हिम्मत न करे। भाई आपको जनता ने सेवा करने के लिए चुनने भेजा है, पैसा बनाने के लिए तो भेजा है कि आप करोड़। अब सुनने में तो ये आ रहा है कि महाराष्ट्र में 25 से 40 करोड़ तक के डील हुई, तो भाई इतना पैसा मिल जाएगा तो चुनाव लड़ने की आगे जरूरत क्या है? अपने बैठो, खाओ, सब आराम करो, फिर ईडी की रेड होगी तब देखी जाए। और आप सत्ता में आ गए तो ईडी की रेड भी नहीं होगी, तो फिर तो यू आर सेफ। तो इसलिए मैं समझता हूँ बहुत से कानून बड़े लचर हैं, इन कानूनों पर जरूर दोबारा से सोचना होगा, इसको जनता को भी आवाज उठानी होगी। अब माननीय, अब देखिए अपॉर्चुनिटियां भी होती हैं। अब चरण सिंह जी का आपने जिक्र किया, मैं निश्चित रूप से, और ही वॉज रेटेड वन ऑफ द बेस्ट इकोनॉमिस्ट इन द वर्ल्ड। ऐसा नहीं है कि चरण सिंह जी सिर्फ किसानों की बात करते थे, वो सारी बातें होती थी। लेकिन एक बार वो 6 महीने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री भी बन गए इंदिरा जी की मेहरबानी से। हालांकि उनने पार्लियामेंट कभी फेस नहीं की, ये देखिए आप, वो द फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर हु नेवर फेस पार्लियामेंट, लेकिन वो 6 महीने प्राइम मिनिस्टर रहे और 15 अगस्त पर झंडा फहराया। तो ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटियां कई बार आती हैं। गुजराल साहब बने, देवगौड़ा जी बने, ये सब बाई मिस्टेक बने या बाई चांस बने। तो इन सब बातों को लिए गवर्नमेंट को, ये और यही नहीं हुआ है, वर्ल्ड में होता है और भी हो रहा है। अब देखिए लंदन में, इंग्लैंड में चल रही हैं सब बातें। तो पॉलिटिक्स में ये सब होता है, लेकिन एक स्तर पे होता है, इस स्तर से गिर के नहीं होता है। अब जो पॉलिटिक्स हो रही है उस स्तर से गिर के हो रही है, सम्मानजनक स्तर नहीं रहा, अब उसका स्तर बहुत गिर गया है। तो मैं चाहता हूं कि आपका ये, आप जो ये डिबेट दिखा रहे हैं, इसका कॉग्निजेंस ले गवर्नमेंट, तो गवर्नमेंट को इसमें सख्ती करनी चाहिए। जो एमएलए चुने गए वो सेवा भाव के लिए चुने गए, जनता के लिए नहीं। तो कौन ऐसा आदमी है समाज में जो ज्यादा एमएलए एमपी से कैपेबल नहीं? बहुत से लोग हैं, लेकिन आपको इसलिए चुना था आप समय दें, पैसा न खाएं, आप लोगों की सेवा करें, और सेवा करने के बाद देश में अपने क्षेत्र का नाम रोशन करें, अपना नाम रोशन करें, अपने परिवार का नाम रोशन। तो मैं समझता हूँ इसमें अमेंडमेंट की बहुत जरूरत है। इस बिल को अमेंड करके सख्ती से लागू किया जाए, जिससे कि कोई आदमी एंटी डिफेक्शन बिल का उल्लंघन न करे।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कुंवर नरेंद्र सिंह जी। So what Kumar Narendra Singh said very clearly that this is nothing but a money power which plays a very, very important role. He says there is no ethics now. He has given example of stalwarts like Meenu Masani and many others. That even he mentioned about Chaudhry Charan Singh, one of the finest economists in the world. He says at that time, if anybody leaves the party, it is for the good, for the welfare of the society. But right now, what the things have not for that purpose. That people are leaving the parties only for the money, for getting the power. So he says that this is a very bad condition, very condition which is not acceptable. And for that, he says that the amendment is required. He even appeals to our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, that he should come out with an amendment and make a very, very stringent law. Because what he says, what has happened in Maharashtra, or what has happened in Madhya Pradesh, or what was supposed to happen in Rajasthan was very alarming. It's not a good thing. And one should not be elected as MP or MLA for the money. They are supposed to give time. They should serve their constituency, not to gain the money. And he even mentioned that it was heard that 25 to 40 crores rupees have been paid to a MLA or Maharashtra. Now they are safe because they will not get an ED raid, enforcement department raid. But future, what is going to happen, nobody knows. But this is his views, very, very strong and views. I hope whenever you will be elected next, you will also see to it that you will not defect to any other party, which I personally feel everyone, whosoever he is, if he is become a defector, he should be socially boycotted. He should not be allowed to attend any functions in the constituency because he has betrayed the mandate of the voters. Although these are my personal views, but one has to do. After all, I am also a voter and I am also a citizen of this country. Thank you very much, Kumar Narendra Singh ji. Now, I would like to go for the next panelist guest, but before that, I would like to take the opinion of opinion of Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran is the former visiting professor IIM Lucknow and University of Texas at Dallas, USA. He is the founder of Dr. Saran Consultancy, California, USA. He said laws in general have lost legitimacy due to politicization of executive and also judiciary. Unless that is cured, disease shall persist. This is view, very strong view. One more view has come. It has come from Professor Dr. R.K. Arya. He is the professor of International Economics of Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Faridabad. He says, no democracy is saved when massive defection by Shiv Sena Shinde group was carried on, prompted by the other political party. How much moral, these views which I am reading is his views, not my views. I cannot subscribe because this is his views. He says, how much moral turpitude must have taken place and how much money must have changed hands can be no one guess. For 40 long days, there was no minister. By chance, Maharashtra is economically strong state where business have no concern with government and hence output must suffered very little. But mind that wheels of the government are not run by the mindless and corrupt ministers, but these are the bureaucrats who run the government. When there is hardly any morality with them, do you think that bureaucrats would like to remain clean? It is neither gas cylinder, nor toilets, nor free ration which can help wipe out poverty, but it is the spirit of goodness which can keep people happy. I can tell you on record, the Indian economic growth can never be pinkish because there are many holes with ministers at state and central level. These panelists must suggest some think concrete. These are the views of Professor Dr. R.K. Arya. He is an economist. He is a professor of economics at Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Faridabad. So he has given his views from the point of economics. Now, I will move to my next panelist guest, and he is Colonel S. Dini. Colonel S. Dini, retired, is the editor of Chanakya Forum column. He is a contemporary writer. He served as an Indian Army Infantry Rajput Regiment officer for more than 20 years. He has first had combat operational experiences after having served in multiple tenures in Kashmir Valley, Northeast India, and along the line of actual control in Ladakh. In Kashmir, he served for 8 years, both along the line of control and in Rashtriya Rifles. He served as a military observer with United Nations in Congo. He commanded an infantry battalion at Kongong Taso for 2 years. After command of battalion, he was nominated for the prestigious Higher Defense Management course. He was posted as a faculty in Defense Services Staff College, DSSC, Wellington, Tamil Nadu. He took voluntary retirement from the army. He is Masters in Defense and Strategic Studies from Madras University. He completed a graduate certificate course in Strategic Studies from Takshila Institution, Bangalore. He undertook the Kautilya Fellowship Program with India Foundation. Currently, he is pursuing MPhil in Defense and Strategic Studies from Madras University. He contributes articles in many publications as well as in digital media such as Dinalapi.com, Swarajya, the print, Rediff.com, USI publications, Moneycontrol.com, and Malayalam newspapers. He participated in various panel discussions on English, Hindi, and Malayalam TV channels and also online websites. Welcome, Colonel S. Dini, on our show. Colonel, you have heard our earlier panelist, Advocate D.P. Singh, Kumar Naren Singh, as well as the views of Honorable Justice Saxena, Advocate Ramesh Kumar Sharma, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, Professor Dr. R.K. Arya. All have given very, very strong views. And their views are very clear. Irrespective of parties, they are not bothered whether BJP, Congress, or any other party. They say that this law is totally toothless. Rather, they have said that this was made intentionally toothless so that they can take the advantage of the loophole. You have served in one of the finest army in the world, and you have also was a faculty there. You have also nowadays you are writing in many of the magazines online and others, and you are also associated with a forum. We would like to know your views on this very, very important topic today. Anti-defection law, a toothless tiger. Colonel S. Dini, please.
Thank you, Shri Goyal ji, for once again inviting me to the show. And today it's actually very my honor that I'm with some eminent panelists, eminent advocates, politicians. Everybody is there, and as a army man, to be in this particular panel is itself is quite challenging. In the army there is only one punishment for defection, and that is death. So there's no defection. There is no soldier who will defect and he can expect that first of all, Indian Army, there is no defection at all. So I found this topic very interesting, and that is why I agreed to take this on. And I've heard the views of all other eminent panelists, and I agree with most of them. And to start off my views on this, I would say that this anti-defection law is not toothless, but it is because of characterless people who are joined the politics, it has become toothless. So it is, that is how I look at it. But having said that, let me just, take you or bring out my views that what is the reality? Let's understand that the reality is that as human beings, although I mentioned about army and people in army will not do that because they are bound by certain values, but public by and large, generally, they are all there for whatever is in the best interest of that individual. That selfishness definitely comes in, and therefore to expect people, everyone, to become very morally upright, I don't think that is the right way of looking at it, because these things will keep happening. It has happened in the past, it is happening in the present, and it will happen in the future. So to expect that you can make a law and everybody will obey that is not going to happen. So what I'm trying to say is that no matter what law you make, these kind of issues will always be there. That is my number one point. Now let's see now what is the similar cases in across the globe. If you see across the globe, such laws are already there. In the Commonwealth nations itself, 23 nations have anti-defection law. There are laws like, for example, in Bangladesh, there is law if a person defect, he is then disqualified. In Kenya, in South Africa, all these nations, this anti-defection law is there. But interestingly, if you see in Britain, from where we have taken our constitution, there is no anti-defection law. And there it is referred as crossing the line, because the opposition and the ruling party sit on both sides of the rather than in a circle, they sit on either side. And if a member gets up and he crosses the line and goes and sits across, that is considered as, like what we call as defection, but what they call as crossing the line. So he can go, he or she can go and sit there. So they are not disqualified that. Although it is very rare, such things have happened in Britain, but it has happened. It is very rare, but it does happen. So what that crossing the line happens in Britain also, but there is nothing to punish them or or to terminate their the thing. So what I'm trying to say is that it is there. It's a worldwide phenomena. In India, it is more rampant. I agree with you that I've heard about the stories of Ayaram, Gayaram and all. Now, I think Advocate DP Singh very nicely, he mentioned about how the entire thing has evolved till what we are. But I'll just quickly mention so that some issues are there. Like, of course, the need for a defection law was felt, and Mr. Rajiv Gandhi brought in 1985 this particular law through the 52nd amendment and the 10th schedule. And one of the things was that the important thing which I understand, and I think many of them mentioned also, was that Speaker is the sole authority. He was made the sole authority, and any member can be disqualified either inside or outside by his conduct inside or outside the House. In 1992, this validity was challenged in the Supreme Court. The famous Quixote versus Zajilu and others order was there, and judiciary was forced to intervene. And once judiciary was forced to intervene, the Supreme Court upheld that the Speaker's power is fine, but the Speaker's decision can be reviewed. It came under the judicial review. So Speaker's power was given the ultimate, but the judicial review of the decision was made mandatory in the 1992 decision of the Supreme Court, and that para 7 of the 10th schedule was removed. Now in 2003, the 91st amendment was introduced, in which the provisions regarding protection granted to legislators in case of a split, that was also deleted. And in fact, a committee headed by nothing less than Mr. Pranab Mukherjee had recommended that anybody who were disqualified should automatically be disqualified, who should lose his cabinet position also. If a person is disqualified, then he stops being a minister or such like post. But that never came up. In 2020, the Supreme Court once again decided that speakers will decide, but they have to give a decision on disqualification within a reasonable time. This was this Krishnam Meghajendra Singh versus Honorable Speaker of Manipur case, in which Supreme Court said that decision of the speaker is fine, but it has to be done within a stipulated time or a reasonable time. But the Supreme Court did not say what is a reasonable time, but they said that a reasonable time within which a decision has to be taken. Now, and of course, in that also, Justice Nariman mentioned that we should think about an external, a tribunal to decide on such matters, those things which need to be done, but no decision was given. It was orally mentioned by Justice Nariman. So either by a retired Supreme Court judge or equivalent in a High Court judge, such tribunal was recommended, but nothing happened. Now, this is where we stand as of now, that there is a law, and in that law, the Speaker is the sole authority to decide who can be disqualified and who cannot be disqualified. There is no time bound by which the Speaker has to decide that, I will decide in 7 days, I have to decide in 10 days, I have to decide in 10 months. There is no stipulation which is given. And there are other loopholes also. Now, let's see what are the loopholes in this. If you see the loophole number 1, the Speaker is the sole authority. And I think I think again it was Mr. DP Singh or Mr. Kumar Narendra Singh. He had mentioned that Speaker is also part of the political party. So he naturally will be biased. It can't happen that he will not be biased. So depending upon his own thing, he may either take an immediate action, or depending upon his thing, he may just prolong that. So that is the first loophole. The second loophole is also that there are instances when which, let's say in a case of 100 people, 100 legislatures, 25 of the members of the ruling party, they resign or they abstain from voting. They don't resign, they move away from, they don't come for voting. So the voting, the rule is that whosoever is present in the parliament or the legislation in that particular time, whosoever gets majority, he gets. So the opposition comes to power, and then these members who had abstained, they become ministers, and within 6 months they can again get elected, and then they come back as ministers. So this also is the second loophole. That what is the how if such a big number, they don't do anything, they just abstain from voting, what will happen? So this is the second loophole which is there. So if you see that these loopholes, how can we overcome that? In that sense, what I would like to mention here is that this entire issue of anti-defection law, we can cover it in 3 parts, like what I mentioned. First, naturally, it is first is the political aspects, then is the legal or law, and third is the morality. Because I heard people speaking on moral values, I heard people speaking about the legal aspects, and of course political aspects. Political aspects we can, at the moment not touch upon because it keeps changing. Political aspects revolves around ideology. Political aspects revolve around personalities, and such like things happen. So we will not touch upon that. What I am interested is on these 2 aspects, legal aspects and moral aspects. How these 2 affect this particular defection law. In that sense, Mr. Advocate Dipi Singh would be definitely be knowing there's something known as constitutional morality, and this constitutional morality also is not something which just came up like that. It has also evolved. Like earlier, what used to have this law and moral. People first in the earlier 17th or 18th century and all, or even in our own system, we believe that whatever is morally right, that is the law. So earlier it was like जो ठीक है वो जो मतलब धर्म के इस पे है वो that is वो नियम बन गया, वैसा होता था. That from there it moved on, and by the time things moved, a term came that law is the command of sovereign. Law became the command of sovereign. From morals it started moving away, because moral had many definitions to many people. So I think one of the good things how it can be was when there is a person known as Bentham. He mentioned that law has the same center of morals. If you take law and morals, law has the same center, but law and morals do not have the same circumference. So you may have the same center, law and morals, but the circumference would be different. So something which may be under the law, it could be outside moral. Something may be inside morality, but it may be outside the law. So that is where I think this definition of anti-defection also is. That is why people say, "Maine to apna moral rights pe I have done my decision, but it may not be law." So that's what I'm trying to come to. Now even this constitutional morality, Ambedkar, very interestingly, the word moral also has been only mentioned 4 times in a constitution. Okay, and even the term of constitutional morality has only been mentioned, by Ambedkar in a passing. He mentions it by giving a quote, and in that he mentions about what is a constitutional morality, and that's how he goes about saying about it. There is no other mention anywhere else. Now, over the period of time, whether it is the Sabarimala decision, whether it is a decision of homosexuality, whether it is a decision of lynching, constitutional morality has taken place. It has come ahead rather than anything else. Now here also, why I mention about this constitutional morality is because now if you just listen to what Ambedkar said on constitutional morality, he says, and I quote, "By constitutional morality, Grote is again a famous lawyer from the British, and he had a lot of books and all written, and he was the person who actually mentioned about constitution. So he says, by constitutional morality, Grote meant a paramount reverence for the forms of constitution, enforcing obedience to authority acting under and within these forms, yet combined with the habit of open speech, of action subject only to definite legal control and unrestrained censure, sure of those very authorities as to all their public acts, combined too with a perfect confidence in the bosom of every citizen, amidst the bitterness of party contest, that the forms of the constitution will not be less sacred in the eyes of his opponent than his own." So this is what constitutional morality as per Ambedkar himself was mentioned. So what I'm trying to say is that now when we speak of this particular anti-defection law, we heard many saying that, people have to be disqualified. Now the same people may turn up and say that, and somebody mentioned also that how can you disqualify a person if he or she is elected from a particular constituency, and therefore he or she represents that constituency. Here also, morality itself has three varieties. Very interestingly, it has something known as majoritarian morality, and something known as the constitutional morality I mentioned about, and also something known as popular morality. Now, if you take a person, if he's disqualified, the argument is that, how can you overcome this? There is a popular, or he is popular, that is why he was elected. So it goes against the popular mandate of the people. Or if you talk about the majority morality, the majority of the people wanted him to be there, and how can you then disqualify him? Now, the examples of popular morality is like, for example, mob lynching. Mob lynching is something which is, is against the law, but at places it is being done much against the wish of the people, majority community, but it's still being done because it is being seen as one of the, means of showing whatever mindset you have. Similarly, for example, if majoritarian morality, how it was played, sati, the whole, majority of the people believe that rule should not be there, and therefore the rule was passed, and that majoritarian morality could enforce that rule. Now, instead of constitutional morality, let's take off constitutional morality. Now talk of homosexuality. Homosexuality does not have the popular morality, does not have the majoritarian morality, does not enjoy those things. But Constitution bench or the Supreme Court said no. As per Constitution, they are entitled to those rules, and therefore we will rule this. So constitutional morality overtook popular morality and majoritarian morality. Similarly, the decision of Sabrimala, I myself do not agree with that decision, but the Supreme Court overcome both popular and majoritarian morality to give up the constitutional morality. That is why I insist that here in this case, the constitutional morality should take place, and the Constitution should bring in a law, or not law, to bring in this particular addition in this particular, to clip the the powers of the speaker. Because why I'm saying so is because if speaker, I know that there are rules and law which is made, which is given that there are immunity to the legislators to speak whatever they want in the legislation. Those things are there, but that also it should not become unrestrained. Now, in the freedom of expression, the legislature cannot say that I'm going to go and vote for somebody else, or I'm not going to listen to my whip. So these things should be looked at through the constitutional morality, and therefore the speaker should be legislated. Although the speaker is the sole authority of the house, the speaker should be legislated that within 7 days or 10 days, he should take a decision on whether a person has to be disqualified or not. After that, then as per the Supreme Court ruling, there's already a ruling which says that the decision of the speaker can be reviewed by the Supreme Court or the judiciary. So therefore, the corruption in the part, that will become much more less. And once a person is disqualified, he or she should be debarred from contesting again in that particular session. So if he switches side within the first year, then he cannot stand for election in the next 4 years. So that, if that thing also has been done, so those things, it has to be overcome, that popular morality and the majoritarian morality and the constitutional morality should be enforced. If these two changes are made, I think more or less we will be able to overcome this issue of hotels and this blatant corruption and the blatant violation of the mandate of the people can be overcome. I think that is the only solution as I look at it. To underline once again, I think the constitutional morality should be upheld by the Supreme Court in enforcing these changes in the anti-defection law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel Denny, for giving your views. Again, very strong views. But what Colonel Denny says, he says he was in army, and army there is no defection is allowed. There's only one penalty, the death penalty, if at all. But he proudly says that in Indian army there is no defection. But in our country, in the parliament or the assembly, we are seeing the defections, no penalty. He says this is something because of the characterlessness. He says we have to understand this is what the law will do when you are characterless. he mentioned about the UK. He says that UK also, this other countries also have the same anti-defection thing, but their defection is taking place crossing of the line in UK. But Colonel Dini, although he also mentioned very rarely it has taken place. But in India, it's a very, very common thing nowadays. People are saying because of one more factor, which is no one has taken, is also the ED and IT and the CBI. That is also one of the factors for the defection, which is now taking place. But he says that the speaker is the main thing, because the power was given to the speaker, that, and it was by the court also, Supreme Court also endorsed that the speaker powers are absolute, but can be reviewed, judicial review can be done. But that will be done afterwards. How much time? Everybody knows that justice delays, justice denied, everywhere it is happening. First, the decision of the speaker will take long time, and then the Supreme Court. So one can understand the condition of the country. He has also discussed about the morality, and he gave that what type of moralities are different moralities, constitutional morality or the majority morality also. But he says that in this case, the constitution should oversee everyone and take the action. Although he mentioned about that how the legislators resign and then they should be debarred, that is not possible. We have seen in Karnataka, we have seen in Madhya Pradesh, the Operation Kamal, how it was operated, that those MLAs were asked to resign so that the majority will go down, and they re-elected immediately afterwards. Now the question which the Honorable Justice Saxena has mentioned, raised his point was very valid. If anyone for any reason resign or debarred, he should not be debarred for not only for 5 years, but the money which has been spent on the election, the re-election by the government, should be recovered from him. Similarly, he mentioned about the 2 constituencies. We have seen across the party lines, people are fighting from 2 seats. 1 seat, if he vacate, either it should not be allowed. Only 1 seat. When we have 1 nation, 1 ration card, 1 nation, we are now coming to that theory. We should say 1 nation, 1 seat. No 2 seats. Why 2 seats? If you are not popular in one constituency, please don't fight. If you are not popular in that constituency, but this should be barred. But anyway, but what Colonel Dini says, it is the matter of character. It's constitutional. The Supreme Court should see to it that the absolute power of the speaker should not be there. It should be curtailed in such a way that whosoever be debarred or whosoever be resigned from a political party or defect, he should be debarred for the election, so that no one would like to do what is happening today. He is also very much pained with the condition here, and we can understand a person who has served the Indian Army knows the discipline of Indian Army. And when we talk about that, why we cannot discipline these politicians, this is something to be discussed. I am sure that we will have taken again a topic about the discipline of these politicians. Thank you very much, Colonel Dini, for giving your time and giving all the data of other countries also. Thank you very much. Now, before I will go to my next panelist guest, I would like to read the opinion of 2 more our viewers. The first opinion has been sent by Ms. Hemlata, former airport manager, Chennai. She says the elected people change by swelling all allegations and abuses of their opponents. Therefore, law is toothless tiger, mission unable to prevent the unethical act and fails to prevent its major vision. How this can be prevented? This is her view of Ms. Hemlata, former airport manager, Chennai. And one more view which has come from Dr. Prerna Sharma. She is a renowned memory girl from Mathura. She says Maharashtra and Bihar में एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ को यूज करके पार्टी में सरकार बनाई है. अब पार्टी के लिए अच्छा है, बट किया एक वोटर्स का ट्रस्ट और वोट खराब नहीं हो रहा है. इसमें डेमोक्रेसी का खराब रहेगी. महाराष्ट्र में जो बीजेपी ने किया वो बिहार में बीजेपी के साथ हो रहा है. इससे तो और पार्टी भी प्रमोट होगी. May it is time to make this law harder. This is the view of Dr. Prerna Sharma. She is a renowned memory girl from Mathura. Now I will invite my last but not the least panelist guest, and he is Mr. Nirmalendu Verma. Mr. Nirmalendu Verma is a renowned social activist. But before I will introduce him. I will just congratulate him because he is a spokesperson of Bihar Pradesh Congress Committee. Congratulations, Mr. Nirmalendu Verma, because now you have come in power. Although one of the panelists, one of the viewer has written about the Bihar also, which I'm going to ask you. But first of all, Mr. Nirmalendu Verma is a renowned social activist. He is a spokesperson of Bihar Pradesh Congress Committee. He is observer of Best Champaran. He is member of Campaign Committee BPCEC. He is the former member of National Working Committee Swaraj Abhiyan and Swaraj India Party. He is president of Jai Prabha Aspatal Bachao Sangharsh Morcha. He is chairman of Khadi Vishwa. He is Adhyaksh a Khadi Gramodyog Institution. He is Adhyaksh of Khadi Vastra Shilpi Kalyan एवं Pension Nyas Khadi एवं Gramodyog Udyog Ayog Bharat Sarkar. वेलकम मिस्टर निर्मलेंदु वर्मा, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है हमारे कार्यक्रम में। निर्मलेंदु वर्मा जी, मैंने पहले भी अंग्रेजी में अब हिंदी में भी आपको बधाई दूंगा कि आपकी सरकार, मिलीजुली सरकार, महागठबंधन की सरकार ने बिहार की सत्ता संभाल ली। डिफेक्शन करके या ना करके वो तो अलग बात है, वो तो अब आप बताएंगे। आपने सुना हमारे पैनलिस्ट गेस्ट एडवोकेट डीपी सिंह, कुंवर नरेंद्र सिंह एवं कर्नल डिनी को। आपने विचार सुने ऑनरेबल जस्टिस सक्सेना के, एडवोकेट रमेश कुमार शर्मा के, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर सुधीर सरन के, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर आर.के. आर्या के, मिस हेमलता के एवं डॉक्टर प्रेरणा शर्मा। सब ने अपने अपने विचार, बड़े स्ट्रॉन्ग विचार रखे और ज्यादातर लोगों का मानना ये था, कर्नल डिनी का तो कहना है, उन्होंने भी वैसे बात कही, हालांकि उन्होंने तो आर्मी में कहा कि अगर होता तो डेथ पेनल्टी दे देते अगर कोई डिफेक्ट करता है। सबका मानना है कि डिफेक्शन लॉ को ये बहुत टूथलेस हो गया है और इसके लिए बहुत जरूरी है। कर्नल डिनी ने तो एक बात और कही कि ये टूथलेस नहीं है, लॉ सही है, कि करेक्टर खत्म हो गया है नेताओं का। आप एक नेता आदमी हैं, आपकी पार्टी अभी आई है बिहार में, हर जगह तो ये हल्ला है कि आप लोगों ने भी डिफेक्शन किया। अब लीगली सिंह साहब ने पिछले बार बताया हमारे प्रोग्राम में कि वो डिफेक्शन नहीं था, लेकिन मॉरली तो था, क्योंकि आप लोग जो थे पार्टी, जो अब नीतीश कुमार जी ने इलेक्शन लड़ा था, उन्होंने तो गठबंधन की करा था बीजेपी के साथ। अब वो बीजेपी को छोड़ के वो आपके संग आ गए, कांग्रेस और क्या नाम है अपने लालू जी की और तेजस्वी की पार्टी के संग आ गए, आरजेडी के संग। तो ये भी एक लोगों का कहना है कि मॉरल डिफेक्शन तो ही, अगर आप एंटी डिफेक्शन में नहीं आए। आपका क्या विचार है? एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ, एक टूथलेस टाइगर, मिस्टर निर्मलेंदु वर्मा।
Thank you, Goel Sahab. I just want to know what is this law? What is the meaning of law from you?
जी,
लॉ क्या है आपसे मैं जानना चाह रहा था।
वो मैंने शुरू में भी प्रस्तावना में भी बताया था और उसको डीपी सिंह जी एडवोकेट साहब ने भी बड़ा क्लियर
नहीं, मैं डिफेक्शन लॉ के बारे में नहीं कह रहा हूँ। I just want to know the meaning of law.
उसके लिए तो एडवोकेट सिंह साहब बता सकते हैं कि क्या मतलब है।
नहीं, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, उसका हिंदी जानना चाहता हूँ।
लॉ का मतलब,
अरे मैं उसका हिंदी जानना चाहता हूँ हुजूर।
और राष्ट्रपति या गवर्नर का साइन होता है, उसी को लॉ कहते हैं।
अच्छा।
एक नंबर 2, जो डेलीगेटेड ऑथोरिटी बनाते हैं, जिसको रूल कहते हैं, वो ऑथोरिटीज बनाते हैं। इसे ऑर्डिनेंस से भी लॉ बनता है। और लॉ अपने यहाँ कॉमन लॉ भी है, नेचुरल लॉ भी है। नेचुरल लॉ कहते हैं जो जुडिशरी जहाँ सुप्रीमेसी में लॉ बनाते हैं उसको नेचुरल लॉ कहते हैं। और कॉमन लॉ कहते हैं जो बहुत सारे जो प्रोसीडिंग्स में जजमेंट के कारण जो लॉ बने उसको भी लॉ का वोट। और
हिंदी में कानून कहते हैं।
देखिए,
मैं यही आपसे सुनना चाहता था।
प्राइमरली जो पार्लियामेंट और लेजिस्लेचर द्वारा जो पास किया हुआ लॉ होता, कानून होता है, उस कानून पर जो राष्ट्रपति और उसका गवर्नर का मोहर लगता है, उसी को लॉ कहते हैं।
जी,
अरे गोयल साहब, मैं तो आपसे मजे ले रहा था, आपने तो ऐसे महारथी से भिड़वा दिया मुझे। मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि मैं इसका मतलब जानना चाहता था जो आपने मुझे बताया, कानून। अकॉर्डिंग टू मी दिस वर्ड लॉ इज नो मोर रिलेवेंट इन इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट इन द प्रेजेंट सिनेरियो। है ही नहीं, कहां कानून है। पहले जब नेपाल में राजतंत्र हुआ करता था किसी जमाने में, तो वहां बड़ा प्रचलित था मुखे कानून छह, जो मुंह से निकला वही कानून है। आज हमारे यहाँ वही चल रहा है। आज पूरी तरह से हमारे यहाँ जो मुंह से निकल रहा है निजाम के, वही कानून है और कोई कानून नहीं है। इंस्टीट्यूशंस दिन पर दिन खत्म होते जा रहे हैं। ये जो एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ के बारे में आपने कहा कि वेदर इट इज ए टूथलेस टाइगर और नॉट, अगर ये नजरिया है, अगर आप सभी लॉ को देखेंगे और उस तरह से उसको मिसयूज करना चाहेंगे तो सारे लॉ आज के डेट में टूथलेस टाइगर ही है। लेकिन यहां पे एक बात आती है नैतिकता की। जब तक जनता में नैतिकता नहीं होगी, जब तक चुने हुए प्रतिनिधियों में नैतिकता नहीं होगी, जब तक कानून के रक्षकों में नैतिकता नहीं होगी, चाहे वो कोर्ट हो या हमारे ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हो, तब तक जितने भी लॉ हैं एक टूथलेस टाइगर ही है। और वैसे ही एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ भी आज के डेट में एक टूथलेस टाइगर ही हो गया है, क्योंकि कानून बनाया जाता है किसी इस तरह की हरकत को रोकने के लिए। ये एक दुर्घटना हुई थी भारत के राजनीतिक इतिहास में। आजाद भारत के 1967 में एक हरियाणा के सज्जन थे जो एक दिन में 3 बार उन्होंने पार्टी बदल ली थी। तो मैडम गांधी ने इसको लेट वाईबी चौहान साहब के चेयरमैनशिप में एक कमिटी फॉर्म किया था, जिसको कि एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ पे काम करना था और लॉ बनाना था। बीच में काफी टर्मोइल सिचुएशन पॉलिटिकली रहा कंट्री में, लेकिन जब 1985 में जब मेजोरिटी में मोदी साहब आए, जब मेजोरिटी में 1985 में मोदी साहब आए,
1985 में मोदी साहब नहीं आए थे।
अरे भाई इंडिया को आजादी मोदी साहब ने कराया, कैसी बातें आप कर रहे हैं भाई। दूसरा, जब कांग्रेस का नेता कोई काम ही नहीं किया तो मोदी साहब ने ही तो किया होगा ना, कभी कभी समझ के तो लिया कीजिए।
वर्मा जी
तो राजीव गांधी साहब ने, आपके अनुसार, मुझे तो जानकारी थी मोदी साहब के बारे में, तो राजीव गांधी साहब ने जनवरी 1985 में इस बिल को लोकसभा से भी पास कराया, राज्यसभा से भी पास कराया, और ये लॉ मार्च 1985 से इन्फोर्स हो गया। और ये गद्दारों को रोकने के लिए ये कानून बनाया गया था। गद्दार अपनी हरकत से बाज नहीं आते हैं, उनकी नैतिकता इतनी गिरी हुई होती है कि उनको पता नहीं अपने फैमिली वाले को कैसे फेस करते होंगे, क्या कह के फेस करते होंगे, अपने समाज को, अपने वोटर्स को कैसे फेस करते होंगे, ये मुझे पता नहीं है। दूसरी तरफ जनता भी उतनी ही इमोरल होते जा रही है। वही उसी जनता का जो पार्ट है, मैं बड़ी होशो हवास में ये बात कह रहा हूं, मुझे जनता वोट ना दे तो कोई बात नहीं है, मैं नहीं वोट चाहिए मुझे जनता की, मैं बोलूंगा सच। रेपिस्ट जब जेल से निकल के आता है तो उसको माला पहनाती है वो जनता। जब पार्टी छोड़ करके और रिजाइन करके उन्हीं जनता के बीच में वो जाती है, पार्टी या वो राजनेता, तो उसको लोग वोट देके जिता देते हैं। आपने देखा मध्य प्रदेश में क्या हुआ। मध्य प्रदेश में कोई गुंजाइश नहीं था तो कांग्रेस के कुछ एमएलए को तोड़ करके और उनको रिजाइन करा दिया गया, और जो मेजोरिटी की जो पार्टी थी उसको माइनॉरिटी बना दिया गया। और उसके बाद स्थिति ऐसी हुई कि फिर कुछ दिनों के बाद उसी जनता ने उन्हीं लोगों को वोट दिया। कहां मोरल है जनता की? जनता की भी मोरल नहीं है, नेताओं की तो नहीं है, बिल्कुल नहीं है। और सबसे बड़ा गुनाहगार जो है वो है इंस्टीट्यूशन, सबसे बड़ा गुनाहगार जो है वो है कोर्ट, वो है जो एजेंसीज है। क्या आपको पता नहीं है कि हर जनता को पता है कि बॉम्बे में 50 करोड़ में एक एमएलए बिके हैं? एजेंसी क्या कर रही थी? 3 ग्राम हेरोइन पकड़ा गया, वो भी कंफर्म नहीं कर पाई एजेंसीज, उसके लिए पूरा इंडिया 1 महीना व्यस्त रहा। और वही एजेंसी 3 करोड़ ग्राम गुजरात में पकड़ी गई, उस पर कोई चर्चा ही नहीं हुआ। कोई तो मंगाया होगा। तो मैं आपको ये कह रहा हूं कि जब उतने दिनों से ये टर्मोइल सिचुएशन था महाराष्ट्र के पॉलिटिक्स में लोगों को उठा करके नॉर्थ ईस्ट ले जाया गया था, एजेंसी क्या कर रही थी? अरे उसमें से एक को तो पकड़ के लाती, एक तो से सच तो उगलवाती। वो ईडी कहा था, वो सीबीआई कहा था जो कल मनीष सिसोदिया के घर गई थी। कोई कॉग्निजेंस नहीं है, सुप्रीम कोर्ट कोई कॉग्निजेंस नहीं। हर जनता जानती है कि ये विधायक खरीदे जा रहे हैं। क्या सुओ मोटो कॉग्निजेंस सुप्रीम कोर्ट नहीं ले सकती है इस पे? किसको बेवकूफ बना रहे हैं ये लोग कुर्सी पर बैठ करके? अगर मैं गुनाहगार हूं तो कोर्ट मुझे सजा दे सकती है, लेकिन सच्चाई यही है और मैं बोलूंगा ही। अभी आपने कह दिया आपने बात में कि डिफेक्ट किया है नीतीश कुमार जी ने। आपको पता है, आपको क्या लगता है कि उद्धव ठाकरे के तरह अगर सज्जन रहे, सीधा साधा रहे, मूक दर्शक बैठ के बेचारा देखता रहे तो वो सही है, और नीतीश कुमार ने उसी एक्ट को रोक दिया तो वो गलत हो गए? आपको पता है 200 करोड़ रुपए आ गए थे 20 एमएलए को तोड़ने के लिए। सूत्रों में से ये जानकारी मैं दे रहा हूं। रामचंद्र प्रसाद सिंह के पास, जो नोन है आरसीपी सिंह के नाम से, और 20 एमएलए को उसमें से तोड़ना था नीतीश जी के। इस तरह से धीरे धीरे फिर कांग्रेस के भी तोड़े जाते, उसमें कहीं पर कोई बात नहीं है। हमारे यहां सबसे पहले आगे खड़े रहते हैं लाइन में लोग। हमारे यहां भी लोगों को सबसे ज्यादा मंत्री बनने की चाहत है। अभी बिहार में मैं कह रहा हूं मंत्रिमंडल में हम लोग को नहीं जाना चाहिए था, हम बाहर से सपोर्ट करते, जरूरत क्या थी मंत्रिमंडल में जाने की। लेकिन अभी विधायकों को तोड़ने के लिए 200 करोड़ रुपए आ चुके थे, पहला खेप आ गया था। कहां थी ईडी, कहां था सीबीआई, कहां थी एजेंसीज? तो मैं आपको ये कह रहा हूं कि एजेंसीज के मक्कारापन के कारण, नकारापन के कारण ये डिफेक्शन हो रहा है। 2 लोगों को पकड़ के निचोड़ दिया जाए और उनसे सच उगलवा लिया जाए, श्रीमान कोई आगे हिम्मत नहीं करेगा डिफेक्ट करने का। यहां पर दिक्कत यही है कि बिल्कुल ही जिसके ऊपर सरकार इशारा करती है उसके ऊपर स्थिति है कि उसके ऊपर रेड होता है, और जहां सरकार इशारा नहीं करती वहां रेड नहीं होता है। तो ये कोई भी कानून, चाहे एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ या कोई भी कानून, काम करेगा कैसे? अब तो कोई कानून इन्फोर्स है नहीं, और स्थिति ऐसी होती जा रही है दिन पर दिन कि लोग बिल्कुल बेलगाम होते जा रहे हैं। जनता चुन के भेजती है किसके लिए, और चले जाते हैं कहां पे? बिल्कुल सच्चाई है कि ज्योतिरादित्य सिंधिया जी ने मेहनत किया था। अरे आपको रिवार्ड पहले भी दे चुका है कांग्रेस, जब आप कुछ नहीं थे तब भी कंपनसेशन भी दे चुका है कांग्रेस आपको। इतने इमोरल हो गए आप कि अगर आपको कुछ राज्यसभा नहीं भेजा गया तो आप चले गए उनके पास और पार्टी तोड़ करके ले गए, सरकार गिरा दी। जनता के साथ कितना बड़ा धोखा है। जनता तो कहीं ना कहीं शिवराज सिंह जी से नाखुश होगी, और उन्होंने कांग्रेस को जिताया था कि कांग्रेस अब सरकार में आएगी और कुछ अच्छे काम करेगी। सोचिए ज्योतिरादित्य सिंधिया जी ने क्या किया, और उनको रिवार्ड में ये सरकार फिर मंत्रिमंडल में ले जाती है। हालांकि दुर्भाग्य से जो मंत्रिमंडल में गए हैं एविएशन मिनिस्टर, उनका कोई अपना एयरलाइंस भी नहीं है, सरकार ने उसको भी बेच दिया। लेकिन रिवार्ड किसको मिल रहा है? मन बढ़ेगा कैसे नहीं? जब आपको 50 करोड़ मिल गए तो मुझे भी लालसा होगी कि यार मैं भी गोयल साहब की तरफ 50 करोड़ ले लूं। और लोग सोचते हैं कि तो लाइफ टाइम अचीवमेंट अवार्ड मिल रहा है तो क्यों ना ले लें। स्थिति ये है।
जी, आई थिंक वर्मा जी आपका नेट चला गया है। तो मिस्टर वर्मा ने जो पॉइंट्स रखे, ही मेड अ पॉइंट, वेरी वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट. He says it's nothing, and all the laws. He says why you are talking about the anti-defection law. It's all the laws have become redundant because nowadays, according to him, because he's in Congress and is a position in center, so he blame everything, whether it's ED, CBI. Although he has made a very strong point, where is ED and CBI and IT when this Maharashtra defection was taking place? Yes, I also personally feel that these agencies, everybody knows in India that without money, nobody is getting this defection taking place. As Colonel Dini says, there should be death penalty in army. I also say it should be a death penalty for those, or if not death penalty, it should be totally social death of any defector whosoever wants to defect. So thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by B4 News, Karu News, B4 Stream, Malanu TV India, News Gaon se Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, as well as shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And one more point before I will close my remark is very, very clear that this particular anti-defection law should be revisited, as one of our panelists says, and the suggestions which has been given by our viewers are very, very strong, especially that all those who defect for any reason, they should be debarred for not 5 years. I say for the lifetime, they should not be in the politics, number one. Number two, all the expenses of the election is spent by the government of India or the whichever election commission should be recovered from that person if he defects, even if he thinks there is no freedom of his speech. If he is so much worried about the freedom of his speech, as Rajesh Pilot says, he should have thought it earlier before befooling the public of the country. Thank you very much. And our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topics every time. And today is a very, very special day. And special day not only for those who are senior citizens, for every day, because tomorrow is a World Senior Citizens Day. And tomorrow our topic is senior citizens, assets or liabilities, because lots of controversy. People says, oh, booda ho gaya, satya gaya. It's an asset or liability. We are going to discuss, and we have a very strong panelist tomorrow. We have panelist guest, Mr. Deepak Goyal. Is the president of Senior Citizen Welfare Society, Mathura. He is also Assistant Governor, RI District 3110. We have Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, former visiting professor, IIM Lucknow, University of Texas at Dallas, founder, Dr. Sharan Consultancy, California, USA. We have Miss Karishma Chhatrapati, inner transformation coach, founder, Being Spiritual with KUC, knowledge partner, Fitsta Private Limited, Mumbai. We have Mr. P.K. Srivastav, Chief Advisor Systems, Pune Nasik High Speed Rail, Maharashtra Government, as well as former General Manager, Indian Railways, Government of India. We have Commodore Mukesh Bhargav, retired, former member of board, L&T Defense, Mumbai. And also we have Rotarian Dev Priya Uksa, renowned social worker from Jhansi. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goyal at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Advocate D.P. Singh. Thank you very much, Kumar Naren Singh. Thank you very much, Colonel Dini. And thank you very much, Mr. Nimlendu Verma, for giving your views. And thank you all those viewers who have sent their opinions to us. So whenever there is a program, you are free to send your opinion, your question, so that we can take up those which are suitable